The Saints Won't Help You, written and narrated by Andrew Pitt. Chapter 2. The morning light crept reluctantly into the church. It filtered through the stained glass in stripes of red and violet, dulling on the stone floors as if even the sun had lost its confidence. Father Gabriel extinguished the last of the altar candles and bowed his head. Communion had been quiet, as it often was on weekdays. A handful of old women with their veils pinned tight, a young man who had slipped in with his eyes so hollow Gabriel had thought of them for the rest of Mass. He had spoken the words, broken the bread, raised the chalice, and yet the gesture felt practiced, performed, like a role he had long rehearsed and never been able to quit. Now confession. He sat in the dark booth, the wooden lattice between himself and the penitent. The voice came, one after another, whispers of sins, sounds like echoes of one another. A lie told at work, an affair regretted, a child neglected, a drink too many. He offered absolution, spoke the prayers, gave the penance, but his mind drifted. Was this truly worthwhile? For years he had believed so, believed that listening itself was holy, that repetition was the structure that held lives together. But lately, the words seemed hollowed out as he spoke them. He thought of his own loss, the kind of that confession could never untangle. The silence after his wife's last breath, the ache of burying a child. Those memories had been woven into the fabric of his faith. He had convinced himself they were all part of God's design, his plan. Yet now, in the twilight of his middle years, he wondered if perhaps there was no design at all, no plan. "Father," the voice in confession asked. Gabriel startled, realizing his mind had drifted and he'd missed a sentence. "Yes, my child. Continue." But his thoughts stayed with him, pressing him like a bruise. When confession ended, he gave the final blessing and dismissed the few who lingered. Alone in the nave, he closed the shutters, locked the side doors, and slipped out into the morning. The air outside was sharp, with the smell of baked bread. Across Plaça of the Angels lay La Coloma. It was open in its shutters just as he came, and Gabriel crossed over the warm cobbles, passed inside to the warm smell of golden bread dusted with white flour like saints' relics. Rosa, the baker's wife, had already set aside a stack of yesterday's bread, not stale, not yet spoiled, but no longer worthy of the morning customers. "You'll feed an army with that, Father," she said, smiling as she handed him the sack. "Not an army," Gabriel replied softly, "just the ones the city forgets." He slung the sack over his shoulders, the weight familiar. Outside, the plaza bustled, tourists trailing maps, locals hurrying to work, pigeons pecking at crumbs. Yet Gabriel walked a different route, down towards the old Roman wall, where the stones rose dark and stubborn against time. There, in the shadows, the homeless gathered. He greeted them one by one, kneeling to press loaves into grateful hands. "How are you today, Joaquin?" he asked a man wrapped in a blanket of rags. "Alive, Father, alive," came the reply, with a grin missing more teeth than it kept. "And you, Marta?" he asked the thin woman cradling a stray cat. "Better for your bread," she whispered. Gabriel listened, lingered, asked after their aches and their fears. He touched shoulders gently, not like a priest, but like a man who remembered what touch could mean when you had nothing else. They thanked him, always with more gratitude than seemed warranted for bread that was already old. He wondered if perhaps he needed them as much as they needed him. By the time the sack was nearly empty, he had only 2 loaves left. He turned back towards the plaza, the medieval stones at the side, pigeons scattered as they passed. He lifted his head and stopped. In the middle of Plaza the Angels, amid the flood of movement, tourists, bicycles, children running to school, stood a girl, perfectly still. She seemed lost, though not in the ordinary sense of lost. Her gaze was fixed on the ground, her hands clutched at the strap of a satchel. Around her, the world moved like water around rocks. Something in her stillness unnerved him. Stacey. Though Gabriel did not know her name yet, he felt her presence press into the morning like a chord struck on an organ. Stacey had woken with the memory of the voices still ringing in her head. The Saints cannot help you. It had rattled her dreams, left her pacing her apartment with her journal open but unwritten. She had promised herself she would not believe it, would not let madness take root. And yet, when she switched on the radio for noise in the morning, the announcer's words had gutted her resolve. A young woman had gone missing last night near Plaça the Angels. The only clue left behind, a little red shoe. A red shoe. Her sister's shoe. No, not Emma's. Not literally, but the echo was too sharp, too cruel. Stacey knew she had to go to the Plaça, though she couldn't have said why. Perhaps to pay respect, perhaps to stare at the ground until it gave her answers. So she went. She walked until she stood in the heart of the square, clutching her satchel, eyes on the stones. Tourists streamed past, cameras clicked, children laughed, businessmen argued onto their phones. Stacey stood still. She willed the city to stop. She willed the world to admit what had happened here. And for a moment, it did. The noise faded, the crowd dissolved into mist. The Plaza emptied of life until only the stones and the silence remained. Stacey felt the air grow heavy, pressing against her skin. A voice rose, not like the one from last night, which had been cold and hollow. This one was warm, commanding, but kind. Hello, Stacey. I'm here to help you. My name's Mary. I'm the Angel of Barcelona. Her breath caught. She clutched her satchel tight, fingers digging into the worn leather. Inside lay her journal, the only place she had ever told the truth about herself, the secret record of 10 years of grief. She looked around. No lips moved, no bodies stood near, yet the voice filled her mind, and then the world changed. The Plaza blurred, time unwound. The Roman wall at her side was no longer ruin, but scaffolded. Men hurled stones into place, shouting in Latin. To her right stretched farmland, green and damp, dotted with wooden cottages and pens of animals. The smell of hay, the smoke replaced the exhaust fumes of the modern city. In the fields, a girl worked, 17, maybe 18, her hair tied back in a scarf. She milked a cow, carried buckets, cut vegetables for a meal, and then, as night fell, Stacey watched her in a low cottage lit by firelight, crowded with people, 15, maybe 20, men and women, haunched together, eyes fixed on the girl as she spoke. She told them stories. Stories Stacey knew from childhood. Loaves and fishes, miracles on dusty roads, the man who had healed the sick and walked on water. Her voice was steady, her eyes alight with conviction. The door burst open. 3 Roman soldiers stormed in, their armor clanking. Panic split the room. Men and women shoved past each other to flee, spilled into the night. Only the girl remained, coward but unbending. In the morning, a crowd gathered, restless. The girl knelt before the centurion. They ordered her to recant, to swear her loyalty to the Roman gods. She refused. She spoke only of mercy and of love. They cut 3 fingers from her right hand. They fell, but she did not scream. She did not move. They cut 2 more fingers from her left hand. They fell. Women in the crowd turned away, unable to watch. Men bowed their heads, yet the girl remained silent, unwavering, her eyes fixed on something beyond all of them. Finally, they brought forth an iron cross, heated in the coals, and they sat it against her head. The centurion begged her to yield. Still she refused. With a hammer driving it home, they plunged it deep into her skull. The crowd gasped. Soldiers stepped back. horrified by what they had seen and what they had done. But the girl lifted her head. Her eyes opened. She lived. "This is God's work," she whispered, voice faint but clear. "He has a plan for all of us." The soldiers fled, muttering of devils and curses. People rushed to her, binding her wounds, offering her food, shelter. Yet she wandered from them, a broken figure, hands open, cross piercing her brow. For 10 years she walked the streets of Barcelona, half conscious, a living testament. People fed her, clothed her, cared for her, whispered her name in silence and in quiet spaces. Mary, the saint who would not break. When at last she died, the sky turned gold, light poured over her body, and people swore they saw an angel lifting her to heaven. And when she arrived, God gave her a task: to watch over Barcelona's poor, its children, its broken, to guard them until the end of days. Now she stood before Stacey, not in the flesh, but an echo of history, her eyes wide, burning with celestial light. "This is why I'm here," she said. "I know your sorrow. I know your pain. But now you must help the people of the city. Last night a girl was taken. She's not the first, and she won't be the last. I charge you with finding the killer. Collect the relics. Seek the saints. Restore the fallen. Only then can justice be done." As quick as the vision came, it was gone. The plaza returned, the tourists, the pigeons, the hum of traffic. Stacey stood trembling, her satchel heavy. She looked down and gasped. In one hand, she held a golden cross. In the other, a chalice. And at her feet, a waxen doll's foot. She scrambled quickly, shoving them into her satchel before anyone else could see. Her heart thudded. She could barely breathe. She stumbled to a stone bollard as a seat, clutching her head. And then a voice broke the air, not in her mind, but real, warm, human. "To the heavens above," it said. "Is this a miracle I've heard?" She lifted her eyes. The priest stood there, rein still bending his shoulders, the sack of bread still at his feet.